Let's check out shares of Tesla, down more than 20% this year, costing Elon Musk billions. But don't worry about him because his holdings in SpaceX are doing just fine. Let's bring in Michael Sheetz, CNBC's space reporter. And there's new news here, Michael, about the overall valuation of SpaceX. Who's making that valuation? How'd they arrive at it?
So this is SpaceX doing another one of its biannual secondary share sales, where insiders such as employees can sell stock, and what that comes with it is your typical valuation readjustment of what that stock is worth. This lets new investors who want to get in an opportunity to buy SpaceX, which is a private company, while it lets people who have been owning the stock for perhaps even more than a decade get a little bit of liquidity. So this is a semi-annual event. I mean, we saw it back in December, July before that, December before that, and it's been a steady increase, really driven a lot by the excitement that investors have around SpaceX's Starlink business and its coming Starship rocket.
And this valuing the company at about $210 billion. When this stock is traded, are these all sort of off-the-radar transactions, private transactions?
Yeah, it's your standard secondary share sale where it's being done by the company on the private markets through its preferred bookkeepers. So we're talking about something that's really not getting liquidity out into the public markets quite yet. And for all the talk about whether or not there will be an IPO of SpaceX, maybe a spinoff of Starlink, we haven't heard any concrete timelines around when that could happen. Everything that I've heard over the last few years is that it's always kind of just a couple years away. So that seems to be something that's still a ways off. But I think the bottom line here is this steady increase. Now, one of the most valuable private companies in the world is about betting on the present with Starlink and then betting on the future with Starship because of the huge customer growth they've seen with their satellite internet business.
Right. Although, Michael, I've been thinking about it as we got the news this week that China has beaten the U.S. to the far side of the moon and could potentially kind of be the first colony to be down there where there's more water and ice-rich rocks and be part of a colony there in the future that I guess all countries want. Is this partnership model, this public-private partnership between NASA and SpaceX, for instance, is that really bearing fruit, or does the U.S. need to get more focused if it wants to fend off China?
It's a fantastic question, and I think it is bearing fruit already. We're seeing it in low Earth orbit with our transportation systems. Already, private industry has taken on new roles that even Chinese private industry isn't capable of yet. So we're talking about a transition point for the United States in terms of how we get our astronauts into low Earth orbit. Now, SpaceX is one of those companies leading the charge under NASA's Artemis lunar program. So we have those same ambitions of China in terms of not just exploring the reaches of the moon, but also establishing a presence there. So it's really neck and neck at this point. I think the really important thing is that, China continues to make really steady inroads by just kind of pouring money, and the questions about its sustainability continue to be there, whereas we really have an industry-driven aspect on the United States side.
Back to SpaceX, we see that it has gotten a contract from NASA for about $850 million to build a craft that will destroy eventually the International Space Station when it's sort of ages out in 2030. What does this craft do? Does it go up and explode the ISS, or pull it back into orbit and make it disintegrate? What?
That's a great question, and what it really is fundamentally is you can think of it as like a tugboat, right? This is a vehicle which we still have questions about. I don't know what SpaceX's design for this looks like, or how they're going to use maybe an existing spacecraft design to create this. But effectively, the plan here is for something that would come up alongside the International Space Station after we've taken all the crew off of it and just kind of guide it back into the really fiery reentry process and make sure it doesn't come down in any areas where we have population. I mean, the destiny of this space station is ultimately going to be somewhere around the Point Nemo way out in the Pacific Ocean. So this is going to be something that there's no people involved, but it's going to bring down what's now going to be a 30-plus-year-old space station.
Quickly, why not just leave it up there, decommissioned?
That's a great question, and NASA also released a study yesterday when it looked at the alternatives for the space station, as far as maybe bringing up higher altitudes and just leaving it there or handing it off to another company. Ultimately, all of those were seen as technically infeasible or just economically impossible. So this is the best option that we have as far as what really has served its purpose in just amazing ways, with over 3,000 different science and research experiments done over 20 years.
All right, Michael, thanks very much. We appreciate your time today.